What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about the Canon R50 and how I feel about this camera after owning it for a little over a year. Now, if you're someone who has watched this channel for a while, you know that I purchased the Canon R50 the week that it came out. So at this point, I've had it for about a year and maybe 3 months. And the initial reason that I purchased this camera was because I wanted a secondary camera to my Canon R5 that I had been using on the channel for quite a while. As someone that used the M series cameras, the M50 and the M6 Mark II in the past, I really wanted to see what Canon's most recent entry-level camera at the time was capable of doing compared to those cameras and compared to one of the higher end cameras like the R5 that I was already using. And I'll be honest with you, I was extremely impressed. I've actually used this camera as my primary camera for the channel ever since I first purchased it. My main reasons for that is once I got the settings dialed in terms of my color profile, I feel like I was able to get an extremely good looking video, maybe not quite as high fidelity as what I'm getting from my R5, but when you take in consideration what YouTube is going to do in regards to compression, your average viewer of this channel is not going to really see that big of a difference in the video content. Not to mention the fact that the video from the Canon R50 was 100 times easier to work with in DaVinci Resolve because the file sizes were quite a bit smaller than the C-Log 3 video that I was using on the Canon R5. Now, in the time that I've had this camera, I not only use it in the talking head segments of my videos, but I use it for B-roll as well as my thumbnails for the videos. Now, I will say up front, if you're watching this video from a photography side, I'm not really going to go into a lot of details on the photography capabilities of this camera as I don't really use them that often. What I can tell you is that for someone just starting out, if you don't really know manual settings, the A+ option on this camera will give you much better than average results. It's not something you're probably going to use if you want to go out and actually make money with a camera. I would never suggest using an automatic mode for any type of paid work. But if you are just getting a camera that you want to use for video, like I'm doing, and you want to be able to get some good pictures without having to know all the settings, the A+ mode is absolutely going to be enough for you. Now, you can set it to manual and have full access to all the manual settings, and your photographs are really going to vary based on which lens you have. I would say any type of photography that you want to go out and do where the outside lighting is really good, or if you have really good inside lighting, anywhere that you can have the shutter up fairly high, you're not going to have to worry about shake. You're going to be great because this camera does not have internal stabilization. It's a $600 camera body, so it is lacking some of the features of the bigger cameras. Now, with that being said, I will talk about some of the photo stuff later in the video. Now, a quick refresher of the Canon R50 if you're watching this for the first time. It was a 24 megapixel camera on a APS-C cropped sensor. It's using the Digic-X processor, and then you also have that dual pixel autofocus 2 that the Canon R5, the Canon R6, the Canon R6 Mark II are all using, that has the ability to do eyeball autofocus, animal autofocus, vehicle autofocus. And one of the features they added into the Canon R50 that my Canon R5 doesn't have is the automatic focus, which can kind of tell the difference between an animal subject, a vehicle, the human eye, and try to determine which focus method is best for that. I like to control that manually myself. That way I can just make sure that it's not going to miss the focus that I want, especially if I'm shooting video. Now, in terms of video capabilities, what you're getting is 4K uncropped recording that is from a 6K downsampled source. So it's actually recording at a higher resolution and then downsampling to 4K. This was something that my Canon R5 did, which I absolutely loved. And a lot of the times with that camera, I actually kept it in cropped mode because the 6K downsampled footage looked better than the straight 4K. And by default, you're getting that out of the R50. Now, you may have noticed that I said 4K uncropped. And all that means is that even though this is a crop sensor camera, you're going to have that crop by default. The camera is not doing an additional crop on top of that like the Canon RP did with its 4K footage. One of my first videos that I did when this came out, I had suggested that this was probably one of the better, if not one of the best, new entry-level cameras on the market for someone wanting to get into content creation that has a slightly bigger than average budget, but is still thinking budget minded. Now, with that said, after owning this camera over a year and using it, I still feel that way. 100% from Canon. This is absolutely Canon's best entry level in terms of best bang for your buck. I still tell people stay away from the R100 unless you are getting it at an extremely good deal, like around $300, $350, because the Canon R100 is lacking a lot of features. It is 100% the Canon M50 with an RF mount. And depending on where you look, you can find the Canon R50 within about $200 to $250 of that price range. Now, in terms of the version of the R50 that I would recommend to someone, I would recommend the body only of the Canon R50 and then purchasing a separate lens. Now, me personally, I'm not very fond of the kit lens that comes with the R50. I say get the body and then take that extra money and put it towards a lens like maybe the 16mm RF 2.8, which gives you about a 24mm field of view. Now, with that combo, you're going to be spending about $100 to maybe $120 more than what the R50 with the kit lens cost. However, you are getting a much nicer lens in terms of how low your f-stop is going to be, and it gives you a good field of view for YouTube content creation and vlogging. Now, if you're willing to spend just a little bit more, you can go the route that I have. And I'm currently using the Sigma 1835 1.8 EF lens that has been out for quite a while. I believe this lens initially came out in 2013 and to this day is still a beast of a lens. It was something Sigma created for EF crop sensor cameras, so it's going to pair perfectly with the R50. Now, what's great about this lens is you can find it secondhand for under $500 quite regularly. The one that I'm using on my camera, I believe I picked up for about $399 secondhand, and it was in great shape. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. Now, I don't recommend buying this lens brand new because it runs $700. Now, $700 for a lens that came out in 2013 is still a little on the high side to me when you can find enough of these out in the wild, used secondhand in great condition for under $500. I absolutely think that with all of the lens options that you currently have for the Canon R50, especially if you consider some of the EF lens options using the adapter, you have quite a versatile, lower priced body to start with that you can add lenses to later. Now, the great thing about this is if you decide to upgrade camera bodies down the road, any of your EF lenses with adapters or RF lenses will be compatible with the next Canon camera you get. So we probably have quite a while in this life cycle before we're even thinking about an R50 Mark II. Now, as I said earlier in the video, my primary use for this camera was for video. But if you want to take still photos, this camera is still absolutely capable. You have full manual capabilities, and depending on which lens you pair with this body, you're still going to get some really great photos out there. I have personally paired this with the 35mm 1.8, the 24mm 1.8, even the RF 70 to 200 f4 I have put on this body and have gotten great photos from it. This is leaps and bounds better than some of the T7Is and T7 kits that you see at places like Best Buy that always go on sale for bundles. You're going to be looking at about the same cost, except you're getting a much more feature-rich camera with the Canon R50. And after all this time of having the Canon R50, one of the things I like about it the most is just being able to slap a low-profile lens on it and take it out and do some video, do some photos, and just not have to worry about having a big, clunky camera, especially if I'm just going out and doing this stuff for fun. This is absolutely a camera that if I were going on vacation somewhere, is going to get packed with me because it's small enough to fit in any of my bags, light enough to where I'm not going to be burdened carrying it around. So after owning this camera for well over a year, would I still recommend it? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. I would 100% still recommend the Canon R50. I don't believe that this camera is going anywhere, and it is absolutely one of the better cameras that you can get for under $700 body only that's currently out on the market today. If you guys have any questions about the Canon R50 at all, please ask down in the comment section below, or check out my channel because I do have some Canon R50 videos, and it's possible that I've already put out a video that might answer some of the questions that you guys have. If you're curious about what settings I use to get the colors that I do, I will post a link down in my description to the video that I made in terms of how to set up your profiles to get better color and clarity out of the Canon R50 that will make your video look much better than the standard profiles. Now, if you like this video or found it helpful, please consider hitting that thumbs up, as it's going to help the video as well as the channel. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell notification. That way you get alerts anytime I put out new content just like this. And with that being said, until next time.